Probably when Margot Kidder is in the police office and she has a drink in her hand. Yeah.
That is a good scene.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's fine.
That is funny.
I can't. Now you put me on the spot. I'm trying to think.
You're on the spot. The glass unicorn?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's good.
I like the rocking chair scene, not the strangulation scene with the bag over her head.
Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. I think I got to go classic, and just as Jess notices Billy's eye in the door, or behind the door, oh my God, that's creepy.
Yeah.
Like, ultimately creepy. Yeah. Insane. Hey, what's going on, everybody? That was our first assistant camera, Jacqueline DeBacco, giving her thoughts on some of her favorite moments from the original Black Christmas. She's a big Black Christmas fan, and it lucked out that way, literally, that she was a big fan, and she came on board to be, of course, our first AC, our focus puller. And a tremendous job she did as well. Welcome to episode 170 of MCRAE Live. The date today is Tuesday, May the 11th, 2021, 12:05 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I'm Dave MCRAE, coming to you live from the VoiceMann Studios in Toronto, Canada. And Jacqueline, it was really cool because she's not just a Black Christmas fan, but she's a gigantic horror fan. I don't know if you noticed, but in the BTS little clip there that I played for you, she had a Michael Myers shirt on, and she wore that. There was a couple of times where I saw her wearing that, and the mask that she wore. I don't know if the mask that she had several. I don't know. I don't think she had that one. I don't think she had the Michael Myers mask. The face mask, not the actual mask. But that would have been funny. I wouldn't put it past her. I mean, you never know. She might have shown up on set with the whole thing. But she had one of those as well. So she's a big horror fan. And it just lucked out that when we were searching for our first assistant camera, we were recommended to Jacqueline DeBacco, and she happened to be a gigantic horror fan and a Black Christmas fan. It's one of her favorite horror movies of all time. So that was always fun. We had a good time talking back and forth about our favorite moments from that film. So, so that's who that was there. On this episode, I want to just kind of talk about some of my favorite moments from the original Black Christmas from 1974. Some of my, what I would consider some of the creepiest moments, I think, from that movie. They may be, obviously my number one is, you heard me say it in the little BTS, clip there. It's kind of obvious. I think it would likely be most people's number one, but that doesn't mean that's the only creepiest moment in the entire movie. The entire movie of the original Black Christmas from 1974 is genuinely creepy. It's unsettling. It's a very slow burn, not a lot of action. It's not action packed. So for those of you that haven't seen it, I am going to be, there's going to be spoilers, I guess, in this show, although it's 7 years old now. If you haven't seen it by now, you're in no rush to. I'm waiting for it to be Billy. That's great. That's awesome. For those of you that are, that's awesome. And for those of you that don't care, well, it doesn't really matter, does it? But the original film, as I've always said, it's an acquired taste for sure. And what I mean by acquired taste is that it is a slower, it's not a, I don't know if I would say it's slower than Halloween, although I think it is. And Halloween, the original Halloween from 1978, of course, is, a slow film. I don't mean it's slow as in boring, but when you compare it to the other sort of films of the series and of the genre, it's definitely a slower kind of, but that's what I like about it, right? That slow burn, that more nuanced approach. It's creepy, it's eerie. Not all the time, but usually when I watch a horror movie or a psychological thriller or whatever it is that nurtures that slow burn and lets the film breathe and creates that mystique and mystery, and you're sitting there kind of going, what's going on? You know what I mean? Generally speaking, I usually find myself really enjoying those movies. And I think most people do, but not all of them, of course, are great. But the original Black Christmas, I would say, is probably slower than Halloween because you're not seeing, it's just differently paced. It's a differently paced film. And it's, there are two, in my journeys, I have found that there are two camps. I think you're either going to love Black Christmas or you're going to not like Black Christmas. And I just have to be honest. I think that's generally what is going to happen. I think if you really appreciate those slow burns, eerie, less is more, creepy kind of vibe, I think you'll really enjoy the movie. But if you're looking for, something more in your face, on the nose, a little bit of a quicker pace to it, that kind of thing, then I think you'll be disappointed in Black Christmas, for those of you that haven't seen it. But maybe not. Maybe you do like those but you also can appreciate the other side as well, right? And certainly there's overlap there too. But the original film is definitely a slower burn, and there's a lot of creepy moments in that movie. And one of the creepiest, it's not a moment, it's a special effect, if you will, is the music. There is no music in the original Black Christmas. It is simply it's soundscape, and I forget the gentleman's name now who did it. I think it was one of the only films he ever scored, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Scored, take that with a grain of salt, air quotes, right? But he has since said, if I knew, and there's no way of knowing this, of course, but he said, if I knew that this movie was going to go on and become the cult classic that it is, and, and sort of revered in the horror genre and being so influential, he said, I would have put a little more effort into the music, I would have, but at the same time, the fact that he didn't, and the fact that all there really is, despite the fact that you hear a couple of Christmas carols, the actual sort of score, quote unquote, to the movie, which really isn't a score, it's a soundscape. All it is piano strings. It's piano scrapes and strings, and it's very eerie and weird and uncomfortable. It's ominous, especially when it's used at the right moments. And he actually, this is back in the day where you couldn't digitally create that. He actually had to, create it using an old piano or a broken piano or something like that. He created those sounds. Well, they're creepy as hell. And I've always really appreciated that, those creepy, eerie sounds that he was able to create in the score for Black Christmas. If you haven't seen Black Christmas and you're holding off because of It's Me, Billy, or you're holding off just till Christmas time, or whatever, you'll understand it when you watch the movie. You'll be like, yeah, there is absolutely no soundtrack in this movie at all. There apart from the couple of Christmas carols, right? There really isn't. So love that. Love the sound design of that. It's just really cool. And he wasn't like, he was just doing something. It kind of reminds me of what's his name? Manfredini or whatever, who did the and like, you're not thinking, you're just doing stuff, and that sounds kind of creepy. And then you have no idea it's going to go on and become iconic. Not that the Black Christmas piano scrapes are as iconic as it's not, but certainly, the principle is the same, right? It's like, God, if I knew it was going to be, I might have put a little more effort into it or something. I always thought that was kind of funny. One of the creepiest scenes for me in the movie, and again, spoiler alert if you haven't seen it, but let's be honest here. One of the creepiest scenes for me, and I actually talked about this with Lynn Griffin, who plays Claire in the movie when I had her on my show last summer. I acknowledge, still to this day, I think it's one of the creepiest, definitely one of the creepiest scenes in that movie, and certainly maybe one of the creepiest scenes in any movie. And again, it's nuanced, it's subtle, but what I really like is when Claire, and she's only in the movie, she's in the movie throughout the movie, but she's only alive in the movie for, like the first 10 minutes or something, right? But I love when she goes upstairs. She's a little miffed at Barb, played by Margot Kidder. And so she goes upstairs to get ready to pack because she's going home, for Christmas or whatever. And the whole scene in her bedroom then she starts to sense that, because Claude, the cat, right? The cat begins to kind of meow at something, or we hear kind of Claude or, whatever. And he's over in the closet, and you kind of see like this, there's this string of clothes, but there's also those like dry cleaning bags that are hanging there as well. So it's really like, you know, your view is kind of obscured. And she's approaching the closet, but very slowly, because she thinks there's something off. There's something, you know, and she's approaching and she begins to say things like, Claude? Who is that? Who is that? Claude? It's so creepy, you know, and it cuts from like, you know, the POV through her perspective back to sort of through the, you know, the dry cleaning bags, like to see her kind of approaching. But it's so, again, and I know I say this a lot, but it's very nuanced. It's very subtle. It's genuinely creepy. You know, the way she's like, it's almost as if you get the impression like you do, that she suspects there's somebody there. And it's just eerie. It's like it's the same. It's not the same. Okay. It's not the same, but it elicits the same feeling for me that I get from the original Friday the 13th when what's her face? I almost forget her name. She's at the sink and she looks over and she looks down, the corridor there towards the stalls, right? And there's just the curtain there and that eerie light just hanging there, right? And then you see Mrs. Voorhees, you know, hand just kind of go like this and then take it away. It's the same sort of thing. It's the same sort of thing. You know, again, very different scenes, but it's that subtle eeriness, and it's the way that that's lit, the way that, you know, light and shadow is used. It's genuinely creepy, and I find the same sort of thing in that scene when she's just kind of slowly approaching this closet, you know, which it's the thing that I always talk about. Now, this isn't necessarily true in Friday the 13th, because in Friday the 13th, in that scene, it is lit to look creepy. Like, I mean, the aesthetic looks very creepy. But in Black Christmas, in the scene that I'm talking about here, I love movies that paint a picture that make you feel creeped out or eerie when nothing particularly creepy or eerie is happening. Do you know what I'm saying? I love that kind of thing. I love that kind of thing. So for me, the scene in the first 10 minutes of the movie, when Claire is upstairs and she's approaching the closet and she's like, who is that? Claude? Who is that? It's just, it's eerie. It's just so subtle and eerie. And then, of course, we know Billy leaps from the closet, excuse me, with the bag, puts it over her face and suffocates her. And, of course, that's how she ends up in the rocking chair, which we see periodically throughout the night in the attic with good old Claude still alive. So that's genuinely creepy. I really, really, really like that. I also love the shot too before he enters the house. And this goes to kind of the beginning of the movie. I love the shot where you see the window, you see, everybody inside kind of having their little Christmas celebration, right? You know, talking kind of here. And then you hear that soundscape again, that little, like, it's almost like a horn drone, like a, you know what I mean? And then in the foreground, out of focus, is just this black sort of outline of this person. You don't know what they look like, you don't know who they are, but they're like watching, and you can hear kind of like almost like what sounds like, from what I can remember, I have to watch the movie again, like mouth noises. Like it's almost like he's getting off on it. You know what I mean? Like he's getting ready. Like you know what I mean? I love that kind of, it's genuinely creepy. And it's not like at that moment we rack focus from them to the person outside. We don't do that because we could do that. We could have, you could have done that, but they don't do it, right? Because of course the point is to keep the anonymity and the ambiguity of Billy alive. So you just see this black sort of blob, but you know it's a person. You know it's a person because you can see enough that it's like a head kind of, but there's no distinguishable features. There's nothing. It's just a black blob, and I love that. I think that's a creepy scene as well. I think the whole opening of the film with just the POV shot of Billy approaching the house, peering inside, climbing the trellis to the attic. Like, I think that's genuinely creepy. That whole thing, the whole movie's fucking creepy. Let's be honest here, okay? But that's creepy as well. Genuinely creepy. Love when he starts to sing Little Baby Bunting, as he's rocking Claire back and forth in the rocking chair. Little baby bunting, daddy's gonna hunting. I love that. It's just like, oh, this guy's like, it's creepy, and then it focuses, it cross dissolves into the University of Toronto. It's not supposed to be Toronto in the movie, but that's where it was shot. And it cross dissolves into the campus, I think, at that point. But that is really, really creepy. Margot Kidder's death, Barb's death, is fantastic as well. I mean, I love when Jess is sitting on the chair in the living room, and she's waiting for Billy to call, because the phones have been tapped at this point, and Lieutenant Fuller is at the station waiting as well. So they're just kind of waiting, and Barb's asleep because she's drunk, so she's gone to bed. But then you hear her like gasping for air, and Jess leaps up from the couch and goes and, investigates, and she seems to be okay. But what's really cool about that whole scene, this is what's really cool about it, is that prior to her gasping for air and Jess going up, what's cool is she's sitting there, and we see the door to Barb's room open, and we just see Billy's silhouette in the door. Like this you can tell he's kind of got curly hair or something, or maybe wavy curly hair, and he's just in the door, and he's entering. And then of course it cuts to Jess, sitting waiting for the phone call. We hear this gasping for air, and then when Jess goes up to investigate, Billy's not around. But what I really loved about that is not just the shot of him entering the house, which is genuinely creepy. That's creepy as hell. I love the fact that she was gasping for air. Was she gasping for air because she is asthmatic, right? That's how you say that, right? Asthmatic? I think that's how you say that. She has asthma. Was she gasping for air because of that? Right? Did she have a bad dream where she's like, but then when you hear her talk about what she says, that the dream she had, right, it's clearly was the reality. And I always thought that Billy was actually in the midst of strangling her. She woke up, started making noise. He ducked out for a minute, right? Or maybe he's still in the room. I mean, maybe he's still in that room, in the background, in the shadows. We don't know. We have no idea. I always suspected that he was. I always suspected that he was sort of in the background, in the shadows. We can't see him. And there's Jess sitting there with Barb, and Billy's fucking right there, unbeknownst to them. I always thought that was really cool. I always thought that was really, really, really cool. And then, of course, she's gasping for air because, did she have a bad dream, right? And it's her asthma? Maybe. But you listen to what her dream was about, and I have a feeling that Billy was already in the process, and then she made too much noise. And he's like, oh, fuck, and then of course, Jess leaves because she hears the carolers, and then Billy just, continues what he started. But now he's on top of her, and that's a great shot too, with him on top of her, and he's up like this with the glass unicorn, and you just see his eye. It's a great shot. It's iconic, it's classic, and it's genuinely creepy. And that death scene is classily, if that's even a word, done. It's done very classy, right? It's not like you're seeing blood spewing all over the place and her organs. It's actually done very classy. But it's genuinely creepy because it's done, of course, to the backdrop of these carolers, which is how Jess doesn't hear the death, which makes sense, right? You got to justify that. How come she wouldn't hear the death? She'd hear her screaming, right? She doesn't because of the carolers. Now, would she still hear her screaming from the doorway? Probably. Do you know what I mean? Probably. If we want to get serious, she probably would still hear something, right? I don't think it's not like she's at an AC/DC concert. You know what I mean? They're just a bunch of kids caroling, right? And caroling, on the lawn. I'm pretty sure she would have heard it. But nonetheless, right? You suspend your disbelief. I totally buy it. I have no issues with it, right? I'm like, okay, fair. That's cool, right? And it works. It works. So, so that is genuinely a creepy moment for me as well. Billy's tirade in the attic when he's just losing all control and he shoves the rocking horse out of the way and he's just like losing it. That's genuinely creepy. I think the death of Mrs. Mack is really creepy too. Not I don't know. It's not her death necessarily, because it's just the way his hands are holding on to that thing, like they're shaking, like he's fucking ready to go. Come on, you fucking son of a bitch, let's fucking go. Like that's what's going through his head as she climbs into the attic. And then he just lets that hook go and boom, she's gone. One of my, a creepy shot too. And again, it's that zoom, intense zoom is when Mrs. Mack climbs into the attic, and she's looking around, and then she sees Claire in the rocking chair dead next to the window, and she's like, what the fuck? And then of course there's that, that zoo, and it's creepy. It's eerie. It's genuinely creepy. And so I love that too. Like the whole movie is littered with things like that. It's a slow burn. It's a slow pace, but it's littered with things like that throughout the film. And those are some genuinely creepy moments that I think are very well done, that still hold up today. Because they're not reliant on special effects. If you rely heavily on effects, there's always a chance that your effects will be outdated eventually. And 9 times out of 10, that's what happens, right? Tony and I were watching Children of the Corn last night, and although I love that movie, it's a fantastic film. The effects are well, dare I say it, terrible. It's charming, right? Because you're watching it within its context, right? So you're not upset, you're not mad, you're not disappointed. It doesn't even take you out of the movie when you watch an old movie with old effects, at least if you are of an age where you grew up watching those movies. If you're somebody who's like 17 years old, watching a movie from the 80s with effects like that might take you out of the movie because you didn't grow up in a time where that was, all we had. But certainly I can watch a movie like that and go, yeah, it looks terrible. It clearly looks, you know what I mean? But there's a charm to it, right? But something like Black Christmas or even the original Halloween is not reliant on dated effects. And so yes, the production value can age, and depending on the movie, maybe some of the acting can age a bit, some of the cuts, you know what I mean? But in terms of the story and the emotional impact these movies can have through, eliciting a tone and a feeling and a vibe, that's usually timeless. That's why some of those old movies like Psycho and Rear Window and Rope and Whatever Happened to Baby Jane and Sunset Boulevard, and just go down the gamut, Chinatown. These movies are timeless in many ways because they're not reliant on effects, right? They're reliant on story and feeling and mood and atmosphere. And again, mood and atmosphere isn't just things that go bump in the night, right? Mood and atmosphere isn't, traditionally when we think of mood and atmosphere, that's what you think of, right? Especially maybe if you think of me saying mood and atmosphere, and I usually talk about it in reference to Halloween, and Halloween takes place at night and it's Halloween. Certainly it means that. But when I talk about mood and atmosphere, I am talking about things that go bump in the night and darkness and light and shadow. Sure, of course, that's all part of it. But I'm talking about the overall aesthetic, the overall tone of the movie. And that also includes daytime stuff. That includes, the tone and the vibe that you feel when you're watching daytime scenes as well, because there has to be a certain tone and a certain feeling that you get through that, right? So I'm talking about sort of the mood and atmosphere as a whole, you know what I mean? Which is equally as important. So, but yeah, this film it's a genuinely eerie movie. And then of course there's the iconic eye shot, which I remember the first time I watched this movie, however many years ago now. I think I was a teenager when I first watched it, actually, if I'm not mistaken. And I remember when I first watched this and it got to that point, it had the same effect on me that the very first time I ever watched The Exorcist, do you remember when Reagan, she's flipping out and she puts her head back and her neck stretches and you just see the whites of her eyes and she's like, yeah! And it's just, I can't do that. I can't roll my eyes back like that. She probably had contacts in too, but she opens, her eyes are open and her neck is stretching. It looks like she's got a goiter in her neck and you just see the whites of her eyes. I remember when I first saw that moment in The Exorcist, My friends and I like paused it and kept like, rewinding. That's right, kids, rewinding, VHS. We'd rewind and play, rewind and play, rewind and play. And we kept pausing it at that moment because we were like, oh, that's so creepy. Because of course, nowadays you see that shit like every fucking horror movie's got something like that. You know what I mean? But 30 years ago, you didn't see that too often. So I remember like going, oh my God, that's fucking the creepiest thing I've ever seen, It was so cool. And for me, the first time I saw the Billy Eye not the one, the one over the bed is really creepy too. That's iconic as well, right? But of course, the iconic one is the the granddaddy of eye shots, of course, is the eye behind the door. And I remember the first time I saw that one. I remember I had the same response. I can't remember if I was watching it with the same friends. I don't know. I was older though. I saw The Exorcist first, and then I saw Black Christmas later. So not much later, but I was a little older. So I think anyway, I remember having the same feeling when you hear like, Agnes, it's me, Billy. Don't tell them what we did. It's me, and the camera sort of, panning to the left, and you're like, what the fuck? Like, where is he? What the hell are we going to see here, right? And Jess is there with, the fire poker in her hand, and she's looking up like this, and she's looking, and you just hear him talking, and then you don't you don't really have the perspective of how close we are to the door, because we're just kind of seeing the door. So we don't know until we get to his eye that we as an audience member are actually really close to him. Because you don't get that sense, right? Because it's not like we've gone from Jess like this, panning across. Because if we began at, we're from what I remember, I think it's a medium close-up of Jess. So it's something like this. You know what I mean? Like from here to here or something. We're not like, it might even be a bit further than that. But anyway, once we go across the door and you see the eye, you're like, whoa! Like it's like we're the audience. Like maybe we're looking at something at that door, where maybe we're trying, it's a piece of wood here. That's kind of right. So our face is really close to the door, right? And we're like, that's kind of weird. And then we just kind of move over like this, and we see this eye right there. It's like, you know what I mean? Like, what the hell? It's like right in your face. And that's how I've always felt about that scene. Not so much anymore, obviously, because I've seen it 500 times. But when I first saw it, I remember having that same kind of response, and we'd rewind it and play it and rewind it and play it and rewind it and play it and pause it, no, pause it. Oh, that's so creepy. Can you imagine? And then you and your buddies like all day are like going, behind doors and doing eyes and stuff like that. And it was good times. Life sucks now. It sucks getting older, doesn't it? Well, there's advantages and disadvantages, that's for sure. But that genuinely is probably, that is my favorite creepy moment from the movie. But I say that lightly because it feels almost like it's cheating. That's why I didn't start with it. I wanted to start with some of the other stuff because it feels like everybody's going to mention that. What's the creepiest moment from, I was about to say, it's me, Billy. What's the creepiest moment from Black Christmas? It was like, the eye. And that is, and I'm not saying that you would be wrong in thinking that or saying that. That's truly how you feel. But it almost feels like it's cheating because it's so obvious that's what, and even if you've never seen Black Christmas, it's one of those iconic shots that you've probably seen. It's an iconic horror shot. It's like it is the Black Christmas equivalent of the promotional image of Michael Myers standing looking over the railing with the butcher knife. Do you know what I mean? Now that shot doesn't appear in the movie. There's a difference there. The shot of Billy does appear in the movie. The shot of Myers peering over the railing with the butcher knife in hand doesn't actually appear in the movie. It's just a promotional image. But it's an iconic shot, right? We've all seen that. You know what I mean? Or Myers at the top of the stairs. Now there is a shot of him appearing at the top of the stairs, but the promotional black and white image you see of Myers at the top of the stairs is not the same shot from the movie. Could be the same moment, just it's not the same shot. So there are iconic moments like that. If you've never seen Black Christmas, chances are if you've never heard of the movie, which of course most people watching me, I'm sure all have, but obviously, but even if you've never heard of it and you've just discovered it this year or something, chances are there's a good chance, maybe not, but there's a high enough probability that you may have seen that image before because it's so iconic. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, that definitely is great. And then of course, how creepy is it at the end of the movie when Jess is lying there sedated in the bed and the camera's just, tracking back and you just hear the phone. Brrring, brrring, brrring. I mean, like what it is still to this day. And I've said this before, it doesn't need a sequel at all, and I know that might sound kind of funny considering I just made one, but it doesn't need it. You know what I mean? And I've said that from the very beginning. But one of the things that attracted me to the project was the idea of, could we do something more and continue the story and do it just, I think it's because I think if I think this is what it is. I think if Black Christmas had never had, and it's never had a sequel. It's had 2 remakes, right? 06, 19. Very different films. And although I don't like the 06 movie, although I don't like the 19 movie, I give credit where credit is due. And the fact that, well, they did not just do the same thing over again. It's how I give credit to Rob Zombie. I give credit where credit is due. I think Halloween and Halloween 2, yes, Halloween 2 is worse than 1, but you give credit where credit is due. And it's like, well, he didn't do the same thing over again. He's at least got that going. I just don't agree with the creative decisions. That's not my kind of, it's not my, I just don't, I think it's dog shit. But when it comes to Black Christmas, I feel sort of the same way, but they didn't do the same thing over again. The 19 film, though, is a bit different because not only did they not do the same thing over again, they didn't even it had nothing to do with anything. It was a reinvention, a reimagining, a completely different thing, which made no sense. That's why I think that was a little sort of disrespectful to the IP. I think if you want to make that movie, but then call it something else. Let it rise and fail on its own merits, not, piggybacking on the back of a popular IP. Anyway, that's my take. But I think if there had been a series, like if there had been, a Black Christmas 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 or something like that, God forbid, then I might have been hesitant to do It's Me, Billy, because, I would just be another one doing something that is probably a slight variation of what's been done before in terms of story and where they're going. But the fact that there wasn't, it attracted me to it. Could we do it? Does it make sense to do it? What if, right? It's just a what if. It's not, it's unofficial, but it's, but it was fun to do and to create a what if scenario, that is as polished and and looks as good as we were able to create. So, it's but yeah, that ending is iconic. I love the ambiguity of it, the mystique of it. Does she survive? Does she not? Now, of course, if you play your cards right and if you pay attention, although this is not, hasn't been confirmed, but if you pay attention, many believe that Billy makes a phone call, and which he does, by the way, after each death. So after he murders somebody, he makes a phone call. Okay. So there is, at the very least, very strong circumstantial evidence to suggest that the point of the ending of the movie was the reason why he's making the phone call is because he's just murdered Jess, right? So he finally got her because the cops left her alone in the house and the thing is tracking back and you hear the phone ringing and that's the end, right? That's the end. But it's not concrete because even Bob Clark said that he had an idea for a Black Christmas sequel that would bring back Olivia Hussey. Now, that movie never came to fruition, but Olivia Hussey was apparently very interested in doing it. I forget when this was. Late 90s, early 2000s. Well, it would have had to have been before 2007 because Bob Clark unfortunately passed away in a tragic car accident with his son in 2007. Head-on crash, I think, on the Pacific Coast Highway or something like that in 07. Tragic, very sad. So it would have been before 2007. So I'm thinking, yeah, like maybe late 90s, early 2000s, maybe something like that. He had talked about this. Now, what the story was going to be and what the logistics were going to be, I'm sure I think actually, Jess, if I'm not mistaken, and I could be mistaken, but I believe it was something around Jess was going to be the new house mother or something like that, or whatever, or some idea like that to a sorority, kind of something like that. Now, Bob Clark did produce the '06 movie. He was a producer on that, if I'm not mistaken. He knew about that. I don't know what he thought of that movie. I mean, he got paid, so I'm sure he, said nice things about it. But, privately, one-on-one, I don't know what he would have said about the '06 film, because the '06 film is, it's very different. But so anyway, the point I'm making is that yes, there is absolutely evidence to suggest that the ending of that movie just dies. 100%, right? I mean, you cannot deny it. You have to acknowledge that insinuation, that suggestion, that implied, potential ending is there, because people have noticed that he makes a phone call after every kill. And now there's a phone call. But is he calling? Is it Billy calling? We know that other people call the house as well, right? Is that Billy calling, right? Who's calling? And who's Billy calling if everybody's dead? Like, normally he would call the house line because he knows people are in the house and he gets to do his thing and his whole shit, right? Well, now everybody's dead. Nobody's in the house. Who's he calling? Now, you can make the argument and say, it doesn't matter. He's crazy. He's crazy. He's just picking up the phone and dialing. Okay, he's crazy. Yeah, okay, right. Anyway, there's a little bit of wiggle room, which of course was the input of where we came in with It's Me, Billy, to do a what if scenario. What if scenario. And it was a real challenge. It's like, can we do something that feels organic? Answer some questions, but we don't want to answer everything, right? And It's Me, Billy, I've often said we do answer some questions, but we also create new ones. And you want to do that, because you want to keep the level of ambiguity and mystique there, create this, again, not make the same movie over again, push the narrative forward, but continue that mystique, that roller coaster ride of, what is that? Oh, interesting. So that, what is that? Oh, interesting. You know what I'm saying? I like doing that kind of stuff. And if it's done well, if it's done right, it can be very, very effective. So, but yeah, that ending to the original Black Christmas is great. It's creepy as hell. And just seeing Claire in the window of the attic with the bag overhead, just sitting there, and I think the window's sort of like not fogged up, but it's got some snow on or whatever, and it's kind of hardly see through it. And you can see Mrs. Mack, in the background, and she's just kind of sitting there like this, it's like, it's crazy, man. It's crazy. And that's creepy as well. There's some wonderfully creepy moments in that movie. So if you're watching me after the fact, or because I guess you can't do it at the moment. So if you're watching me after the fact, or even after the show is done today, comment below and let me know what some of your favorite creepy moments are from the original Black Christmas from 1974. What got you? What do you love about the movie? What is it that makes you feel unsettled? Comment below and let me know your thoughts. I would love to know. And don't forget, the unofficial, long-awaited sequel to Black Christmas drops online. Directed by yours truly and Bruce Dale. Directed by, written by, produced by yours truly and my buddy Bruce Dale. On May 28th. May 28th. Exciting stuff. But yeah, comment below and let me know. I would love to know. Let's go to the chat room and see what you guys are saying. Let's see what's happening here. What are you guys saying? Oh, I just got a text message. Who is this? This is from my dentist. Oh, right, because I have a dentist appointment tomorrow. A dentist appointment. Get the old teeth cleaned tomorrow. I think it's probably in regards to a COVID thing. You got to fill out a COVID thing before you can go to the thing, which makes sense. Anyway, let's move over to the chat room and see what you guys are saying. Did I miss any super chats? I may have. I don't know. Let's see. 2 super chats here. At least that's all I see at the moment. Julian Salgado. I think that's right. Salgado. $5, my man. Thanks very much. Says, hey, Dave, it's my wife's B-Day. Can you shout her out? We are big fans. Yes. What's your wife? Oh, her name is Emily. Hello, Emily. How are you? Happy birthday, Emily. Happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Dear Emily, happy birthday to you. I hope you have a wonderful birthday and stay safe to you both. Thank you very much for both super chats. By the way, Julian, really appreciate that very, very much. Let's go over and see what we got going on. You know what? I gotta put on my glasses now. Do I put on? Yeah, I guess I kind of do. Put on the old glasses. Oh, Lordy. All right. Let's see what we got. Oh, there we are. I can actually read the chat. Read the chat. Let me see here. What do we got? We got people talking amongst each other. That's great. That's fantastic. I love it. I love it. Aaron Click says, I love the juxtaposition of that sorority house in the original Black Christmas, feeling lonely and creepy with it being full, with several people inside of it for the first part of the film. Could not agree more. Could not agree more. I still plan on doing this. I am going to do it. I just haven't had time to do it, but I am going to do it. Maybe I'll be able to do it this summer. I'm going to, because you have to be careful. And the reason why is because the Black Christmas house is not too far away from me, but it's on a private street. So it's the kind of thing where you want to, like, you can walk down it, you can go down it, but you don't want to be that guy. You know what I mean? You don't want to be that guy. You know, it's a little different with like the Myers house or the Elm Street house, because they're on like regular roads. You know what I mean? The Black Christmas house is in a very affluent neighborhood of Toronto. It's a big house. It's not as big as the house that we shot in, but it's a big home nonetheless. And it's a very big home. And and there are other big homes right beside it. And it's almost like the street it's on is almost like a private laneway almost. You can walk down it, but I don't think you can drive down it if I'm not mistaken. Anyway, my plan is to go down, maybe do a little live stream from there, or at least take some video I can upload later and show you guys, because I think it'd be cool. But you don't want to be that guy. Hi everybody, how you doing? Here we are, and then they're like, who the fuck is that out there? So this is it. Yeah, there it is. Black Christmas 1974. Here is the way it is. So isn't this hard to believe, ladies and gentlemen? Here we are. We're looking. It's amazing stuff. I'm telling you. Holy shit. Yeah. And there's the window right there. That's where Claire was sitting, man. Claire was sitting right up there. Hang on a second. Let me get a shot of that. Let me zoom up. You can really see it. You don't want to be yelling and screaming and, it's like an in and out kind of thing. You're kind of like, hey, psst, here it is. There it is. At least that's the vibe I always get when, you're in that area, because it's a very sort of, people look at you. People know when you don't live there. Let's just put it that way. Like if you're walking along the street, people walk along, who live there and going, I know you don't live in this neighborhood. Not because you may or may not be as wealthy as the people that live in this neighborhood, but just because it's a close, tight-knit neighborhood. So you know who everybody is, right? So you recognize that this person, I've never seen this person before, right? And certainly if I'm there with a phone, I got it on a gimbal and I'm like, you got it, it's the Black Christmas. It's not like the Myers house where you can just stand there and there's like a public street and a restaurant across the street, and you know what I mean? There would be no, see, that's the thing. With the Myers house and the Elm Street house and all that kind of stuff, you can just be there because it's so embedded into the public sphere. Whereas this is like, clearly your reason for being there is this house. You would have no other reason to be in that area. You would, unless you lived there. You know what I mean? So anyway, but my plan is to do that. I'm definitely wanting to do that at some point. The Smokies says, Dave, hey Dave, while I'm not a big fan of the OG Black Christmas, I see why people love it. I don't hate it. It's just too slow for me. See, that's what I said. I said earlier. Great mood and atmosphere and acting, though. I'm going to say more excited for something else. No, but you're right, though, right? At the beginning of the show, I said Black Christmas falls into two categories. It's either people don't like it because it's too slow and it's not intense enough for them. It's not, I want more kills, or they love it because of its Hitchcockian type of style, right? Do you know what I mean? And old school, like me, even older than Halloween. But it's a very influential film, and a lot of the tropes that you see that were carried over into Halloween and stuff stemmed from Black Christmas. So we owe a great deal of gratitude to the original for sure. Absolutely. Chester Franklin Jr. says, Dave, have you listened to another version of Halloween 5 soundtrack? No, I have not listened to an alternate version of the Halloween 5 soundtrack. Frank Riker says, just ring the doorbell and ask to use their bathroom. Yeah, I guess I could do that. Although they don't have a doorbell. It's all gated. And when you, now I don't believe it was gated years and years ago, but it's gated now, and you can't get up to the front door because it's gated. And there's security there. You can get, there's a side entrance. There's like a laneway where there's a side entrance, but it's not a doorbell, it's an intercom. So you have to hit the intercom, and then they go, yes, you know, and then I could say, hi, yeah. Can you imagine? Yes. Hi, yes. I was just wondering if I could use your toilet. I need to take a gigantic shit. And I was just walking in the neighborhood, and I just, you know, when you gotta go, you gotta go. And I saw your place, and it looked like you'd have a really nice bathroom. And I was just wondering if I could just drop a deuce and just, you know, if that's okay. Yeah, okay, 1 second. Can you imagine? Yeah, there's like a dramatic pause. There's a dramatic pause, and then it's just like, yeah, okay, 1 second. Yeah, okay, 1 second. Yeah, okay, one moment. Yeah, sure, no problem. 1 moment. Hang on a sec. I just gotta put some pants on. Yeah, come on in. And then like he opens the door there. Come on in. I need to take a shit and get in here, you son of a bitch. That'd be hilarious. My God, that'd be funny. Oh, that'd be funny. Let me see here. Duke Fleet says, Dave, how old were you when you first watched Black Christmas? I was a teenager. I'm not quite sure how old. 15 maybe? 14, 15, 16, somewhere in there. I think was the first time I watched it. It was something like that anyway. So it's been a while. Yeah, Chris Paper, $3,000 for a shit. You may be right. Alec Schambach. Hopefully I'm saying that right. Peter's silhouette at the end of the movie is very eerie, even him walking up to Jess. Oh, yes, that's really good. Yes, when Jess is in the basement, right? And of course, Jess thinks it's Peter. Jess is convinced that Peter is the killer because Billy was able to overhear their conversation from the living room. And Jess makes that connection when Billy's like, it's like having a wart removed, right? And she's like, and you hear, oh my God, you know? And then like, you know, the cops are like, Jess, you said, oh my God, is something wrong? Did you recognize him? And then of course she doesn't want to draw any attention. She's like, oh no, you know, I just, but you're right. So she thinks that Peter is the murderer. She killed Peter in self-defense, right? He's dead at the end of the movie. He's lying there, you know, he's dead. She's alive. She killed him in self-defense. She believes that. But you're right. In the basement, when Peter comes up to the window and you just see his silhouette and he's looking through, that's a great answer. That's another great example of, you know, genuine creepy moments. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, for sure. That's genuinely creepy. 100%. Even when, you know, yeah, there's just some great moments for sure. Corey Dean says, just say you are a shower ring salesman and ask to see the kind of shower that can. Yes. Yes. My name is Del Griffith. I'm with the American Fixture of Shower. What does he say? No, hang on. What does he say? He says, American Light and Fixture Shower Curtain Ring Division. Hi, yes, I'm Del Griffith. I'm with the American Light and Fixture Shower Curtain Ring Division. I'm here selling some amazing shower curtain rings, and I just was wondering if I could have just 5 minutes of your time so I could check out and assess your current shower rings on your shower curtain and then offer you any alternatives that may make your showering experience that much easier and better. Just a minute. Just a minute, he says. Just a minute. Come on in, you son of a bitch. Come on in. Machete Slasher says, I'm definitely watching the original before it's me, Billy. Will it be necessary? I've had a few people ask me this. Okay, well, here's the thing. If you've never seen Black Christmas, if you've never seen the original, then I do recommend watching it because it's only going to enrich your experience watching It's Me, Billy. You need to have context watching It's Me, Billy, because it is a direct continuation. Now, it is, you know, like 50 years later, but it is a direct continuation. So it helps, right? Helps. It's like, do you need to watch the original Halloween to watch Halloween 18? Do you need to if you've never seen it? Well, no, you don't need to. I mean, you certainly can, you don't need to, but it makes watching Halloween 18 that much better, that much richer, because you have context and you have perspective, and you'll be able to pick up on certain things that would otherwise go over your head because you never watched the original. So, I do, yes, if you've never seen the original before, I say watch it, then watch It's Me, Billy. If you have seen the original before and you remember it quite well, then I wouldn't say there's any need to watch the original before you watch It's Me, Billy. You can just watch It's Me, Billy because you remember the original well. So there's no need to rewatch it if you don't want to. If you have seen it but forget about it, you're like, I forget really what happens in it, then I would also recommend watching it to refresh and sort of, rejuvenate the senses of what that movie was about. But no, I wouldn't say if you've seen it, you know it. I don't think it's like, do I need to go and watch Halloween 18 before I watch Halloween Kills? No, I don't. Because I remember it fairly well. I can just go watch Halloween Kills. I don't need to see it. Did I watch the original Halloween before I watched Halloween 18? No. I mean, I know that movie so well. I didn't. Now that doesn't mean that it's not fun for people to have, marathons and watch movies and then watch I get that exists. I understand. That's cute. That's fun. But 99% of the time, these people watching those movies, like all those like Star Wars-a-thons, we're going to watch episode 1 through, 8 or 1 through 8, 1 through 6, and then we'll watch the 4. They don't need to do that. Usually the hardcore nerds that do that, and hey, I'm a Star Wars nerd too. Not quite as hardcore, but I'm just saying, it's not a slight. Usually, usually the only people that would do that are people that have seen the movies 500 times, you know what I mean? Because they get the excitement over doing it. They want to do that, you know what I mean? So anyway, yeah, no, I don't think you need to, if you know the movie well enough. Let's see here. What do we got? iExtreme VR. I think that's how that's supposed to be said. This movie is scary. This could be the best movie out there. I used to watch this in the shower every Christmas Eve morning. You used to watch this in the shower. Oh, I get what you're saying. You're making a joke on what I'm saying. Sorry, dude. I get it now. I get it. I get it. That's funny. Chris Baber sends in a $4.99 super chat, says, glad the original house is still there. It is. Bucket list for sure. I visited the TCM 1974 location at Quick Hill, and it was very creepy. I'd love to see that. I'd love to see it. Yep, it's still there. Because it was the Black Christmas house when it was, even back in the day, back when they shot the movie, it was never a sorority house. For those of you that don't know, the Black Christmas house, the original house, was never a sorority house. But Bob Clark and crew were looking for a house that could be one, that was big enough, and not like fucking multi-trillion-dollar mansion, but something that was clearly a mansion, and it is. It's again, it's a very large home, maybe a McMansion, but it's big. And he was looking for a home that could be believable to be a sorority house, and something that had the architecture and the vibe and the tone. And they came across this house, but it's just a regular house. Now it's a heritage house. I don't know if it was then. I'm not sure if it was in 1974, but certainly today, and I think since the mid-90s, it has heritage status now, as a lot of the homes in that area do, because of their cultural and historical significance. So, because they're so old and they've been around for years, and the neighborhood is so, kind of posh and whatnot in that in that area. Well, not posh, more affluent. I know that they, but it's a regular, just regular people live there and have always lived there. Now it has switched ownerships over the years. But certainly when they shot the movie there, it was a regular home that they went to, like how we did with It's Me, Billy. We approached the home and now it might be a bit different because the owners of the It's Me, Billy house, they've had a lot of movies shot there. So it's up on the market for that kind of thing. So us approaching them to shoot a movie there wasn't out of the norm for them. I mean, I think after we left, I think it was like a couple of weeks later and they had like another crew there shooting something. I think they had like a crew in the summer, like 4 months before we were there shooting something. You know what I mean? So they're used to this. But they actually do live in the house. It's their full-time home. So with the Black Christmas house, I don't know for sure whether other movies had shot there before or whether Black Christmas 74 was the first, but it was a regular house. And it's still there to this day, lived in by regular folks. So I believe it will always be there. And it will always be there now for sure because it's protected, right? It's got heritage status. So it's there. And it's not too, if you live in Toronto or if you've been to Toronto and if you've ever been to Casa Loma, not Castle Loma, Casa Loma, it essentially is a fucking castle. I think that's why people make the mistake and call it Castle Loma, because it essentially is. But it's very close to Casa Loma in Toronto. And Casa Loma it's a very affluent area, right? It's very close to the Casa Loma house, which is a fucking castle. It looks like a castle. It was used in parts of Ready or Not. They shot parts of Ready or Not at Casa Loma. So anyway, yeah, no, I would love to. I was down there like over a year ago, I guess. Bruce and I were down there because we had initially approached them, right? We had initially approached them to inquire about shooting there or whatever, and they didn't want to. They didn't want to have anything to do with it. They didn't want anything to do with it. It's unfortunate actually because we didn't even get a chance to kind of sell our case. Because obviously we weren't expecting to do it for free. You know, you can't, you know, when you want to shoot in somebody's home, you know, you're going to inconvenience them for however long you need the place. So yeah, money. Naturally, it's business, right? That's what they do. That's what all professional film crews do. If they want to shoot at a location, they got to pay for it. Especially somebody's home, right? So we were prepared to, I mean, we had a budget, of course, we were prepared and they still could have said no. And maybe the price they would have wanted would have been out of our budget, right? That's entirely possible too. But it's unfortunate we didn't get a chance to get past the intercom. That's unfortunate. It was just a hard no. It was just like, no, not interested in even talking to you. So that's too bad. That's too bad. So that tells me that I wonder if ownership has changed. Because on the Black Christmas DVDs and the Blu-ray, now it's older now, it's probably about 15 years old, but there is a special feature where I think you have Lynn Griffin and I think it's Lynn and maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it's not on the Blu-ray. Sorry, I've got like four things in my head. Maybe it's not on the Blu-ray. Anyway, there's like a special features where you're in the house, you know, and you're doing like a tour of the house. But if ownership has changed or if people got too fucking annoying, which can happen, they can shut it down very quick. Like, you know, somebody said to me at the Strode House in Pasadena. Now, I haven't been to the Strode House in Pasadena. I didn't go in 2019. I guess 2018 was the last time I was there for the 40th anniversary convention. And when I was there, of course, and for years, the owners of that house put those fake pumpkins out, right? And they had that little like thing saying, yes, this is, you know, the house from Halloween where Laurie Strode lived. Please feel free to take a pumpkin and go sit on the stoop and get your photo taken. And it was really, really cool. And then somebody brought it to my attention about a year or so ago that when they went there, all that shit was gone. And there was no pumpkin, there was no sign, nothing. And they found out that the reason is because people started to steal. And it fucking pisses me off. Like, who are these fucking losers, brain dead idiots? Listen, if you're like 10, all right. It's still wrong, but I give you a pass because you're fucking 10 and you don't know any better. But if you're fucking like my age, you're in your 40s or your 30s, or even your 20s, and you're stealing the stuff from this family, instead of shutting it down and saying, get the fuck off my property, you piece of shit, like a lot of people would do, they actually bought into it and realized they didn't know it. When they first purchased the house years and years ago, they didn't know that they had purchased the Strode House. until people started coming around. Well, instead of, now I don't know if they've since reinstated the pumpkins and all that. I don't know, as of shooting this. This is the last I've heard. Instead of doing that and being a bitch and being a pain in the ass, they decided to roll with it and just say, you know what? People are going to come around anyway. Hey, you know what? Here's some fake pumpkins. And at Halloween time, they would sometimes put some real pumpkins out there too, which is kind of cool. Here's a little sign, a little frame saying, yes, take the pumpkin, go get your photo taken, but please, return it, right? Yeah, that makes sense. And that obviously lasted for a long time. Years they would do that. But apparently they're not doing it anymore, at least as of the last time that I was aware of this. Now, maybe they've reinstated it. Maybe they'll reinstate it when the new movie comes out. I don't know. But there was a moment there over the last year or two where those props were gone. And I thought, somebody said to me, I think a new family lives there. And I'm like, oh, that would make sense. New family moved in, doesn't like all the hoopla, right? Takes that shit away. No. Apparently it's the same family. They just shit started to steal. And I'm like, really? Like, these generous people buy into it, let you have your fucking fun on their fucking property, and you got to steal shit. You're a fucking idiot. Way to spoil it for the rest of us, right? You know what I'm saying? That pisses me off because it's so juvenile. And what are you stealing it for? It's not like it's the pumpkin from the movie. It's just a fake pumpkin. It probably changes every year. It's just a pumpkin from the porch. It's not the movie pumpkin. I mean, I wouldn't agree with it, but I could at least intellectualize, well, he stole the movie pumpkin from the movie. Like, well, it's still a dick move, but at least I can be like, well, I guess I understand. You steal the Strode prop pumpkin? Like, I just don't understand. Who cares? Just take it, sit on the stoop, get your photo taken, put it back and call it a day. It pisses me off. Anyway, the point I'm making is that I think with the Black Christmas house, I suspect that maybe if this was 15 years ago and I had buzzed and said, oh, hi, we're shooting a movie, can I just talk to you for a moment? Maybe they would have been like, oh yeah, sure. Not necessarily, agree to it, but maybe they, wanted to talk to us, right? No, not anymore. And it's their right. It's their right. It's their and who knows how many times a day they get something like that, right? Who knows how many times in a week that buzzer is ringing for the sole purpose of, can I have a look at the house? Can I talk to you for just a moment? I just want to take a photo of, do you mind if we just, I can imagine, if my door was ringing, I'd be like, oh, fuck. No, this is my home, And that's what was so cool about the Strode house was it was their home. And because they bought into it, because they left those things on their porch, it allowed, I would like to believe anyway, at least when I was there and I saw other fans that were there, they were respectful. They would go, they weren't knocking on the door. They were just taking their photos and going up onto the porch. And it was cool, man. It was cool. What a cool thing. Myers House, you can't do that. And I understand it's a private business. They don't want to lose business, and I understand that. It's a little bit of a different thing. But at the Myers House, they say, take all the photos you want, but don't come up onto the porch. They say that. Now, people go up onto the porch anyway. And I have to admit, I sat on the porch and got my photo taken really quickly. You know what I mean? But the Myers House isn't like that. But to be fair, though, the owners that own the Myers House do some pretty cool things. They do some pretty cool. You got to give credit where credit is due. At Halloween time, they light up the house and they do some cool stuff, and you got to give credit where credit is due. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, just don't spoil it for anybody. Don't spoil it, man. Understand that you don't owe you shit. They don't owe you anything. These are private businesses and homes. They owe you nothing. Nothing. They owe you nothing. They owe your fandom fuck all. So let's be very thankful that some of these places buy into it. Maybe it's not, they don't buy into it to the extent we'd like them to. Maybe they're not as nice as we'd like them to be. Maybe they don't do as much as we hope they would. But if you see a little something, a little pumpkin that you can take to a stoop and get your photo taken, appreciate that. Because it's private fucking property. You know? Don't be a dick and take that shit, man. Because now you ruin it for everybody. Now, I don't know if they, as I said, if they've reinstated it, I don't know. But somebody in LA and South Pasadena, go down, have a look. Next time you're in the area, have a look. Let me know. And if it's not there, well, that's why. Now you got to bring your own fucking pumpkin, and that's annoying. Anyway, just sucks. Just sucks. It just sucks. Let's see here. Robert P. Thidoff says, Dave, you have to pick one alternative scenario. Halloween 2, 1981, where Nick Castle plays the Shape and Zero Brother-Sister story, or a totally new Halloween 5 story for the Halloween 4 director-writer. Oh, I would say I'd go with the first. I'd go with the first. Yeah, I'd go with the first. I would say, and I don't mind Dick. Look, I don't mind Dick Warlock as the Shape. I mean, he's definitely adopted a new style, but I think Dick Warlock did okay. He was the same. I think the reason why Dick Warlock, I'm okay with it, is because Dick Warlock has he's the same sort of build as Nick Castle. Now, he's a little shorter than Nick Castle. Nick Castle was 5'10". Dick Warlock, I think, was about 5'9". So he was a little shorter, but he was the same sort of stature, the same size, right? The same body shape. So any little things that he did a bit differently, you're like, well, but I believe it's the same guy. I don't believe George P. Wilbur's the same guy. I don't believe, what's his face? Don Shanks is the same guy. You know what I mean? So it's a bit different in that way. But no, I'd probably choose the first one. Or I don't know. You know what? I don't know. It is what it is. It is what, maybe I go, Robert, maybe I go different Halloween 5 because I think, I'm going to change. I'm going to lean towards a new Halloween 5 because I've thought about this more, and I have it on my channel. There's an episode of MCRAE Live where I talk about this. I talk about my idea for an alternate Halloween 5. So I've actually thought about this. I haven't really thought about doing a new... I've mentioned that the brother-sister arc is unnecessary and you can remove it and tweak a couple of little scenes and the rest of the movie can stay the same and nothing has to change. I have mentioned that, but that's not like fundamentally changing the entire film per se. But I think you could do a better Halloween. Yeah, you know what? I'm going to say that, Robert. I'm going to say that. I'm leaning more towards that. I think that's what I'm going to say, for sure. Destiny Faulkner says, I haven't been to Dallas yet. Maybe I should start there. I guess you're talking about filming locations and stuff. I think maybe that's what you're saying. And am I saying your last name correct? It's Faulkner? It's one of those two, I'm pretty sure. Nathan Hartswick sends in $10. Thank you, Nathan. Says, just supporting your channel. So excited for It's Me, Billy. Thank you, Nathan. Really appreciate that, man. Really do. Really appreciate that. Thanks for saying that. Yeah, it's hard to believe. We are, well, what are we? Friday was 21 days. It's now Tuesday. So that's, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, Monday, 17 days. And it's going to fly by, folks. It's going to fly by. And a much needed break after this for sure. I don't even know what's going on. Like, sincerely, like I've been so neck deep into, and just because It's Me, Billy and I made the announcement a few days ago that It's Me, Billy has officially locked picture, locked sound, which essentially means the film is complete. That doesn't mean that, there's still a shitload of work to be done. Yeah, exciting though, man. It is exciting. Chris Baber sends in $4.99 and says the Myers Replica House does a lot of events for movie fans. That is true. Mega Outdoor Theater with movie nights went last summer. It's great in North Carolina. Great mention there, Chris. You're absolutely correct. The Myers House in North Carolina it's become a real staple, like a real tourist attraction for a lot of people. And you're right. I don't know the name of the gentleman who owns it, but he does a lot of great things, and not just Halloween stuff. Like he'll host horror events and watch all different kinds of horror movies on a big outdoor screen. And totally, man. I tell you, if I lived a stone's throw away from North Carolina, I'd be checking out the Myers house there. He's done a great job. Now, the Myers house in North Carolina is a bit bigger than the actual Myers house. And I remember when he was constructing that many years ago, he said that they intentionally made it a bit bigger to make it, obviously you want something a bit bigger, but the actual dimensions in terms of like the layout of the house and how it looks and everything is identical. I think there's a bit at the back that is a bit different. Like there's certain things he had to do to make it, for logistical reasons, more habitable, we'll say, and not quite as cramped. But certainly it's Kenny Caperton. Okay, well, shout out to Kenny Caperton of the Myers house in North Carolina. Incredible, man. Like, what you've done. I mean, that's a dream. I mean, that's amazing, and he worked his ass off to make that a reality. If I stand to be corrected, but I believe he even got like the blueprints of the original Myers house or something to that degree. And again, I stand to be corrected, but from what I understand, it is a bit bigger, it's a bit wider, but the layout is identical. It's identical, and it looks identical, right? Perfect for, and some fan films have been shot there, right? So very cool indeed. Very, very cool indeed. Dave Bob Petway says, do you think any of the big three, Halloween, Elm Street, and Friday the 13th, could have the same impact on pop culture if they were standalone films? I say Elm Street, yes. Halloween, maybe. Friday the 13th, no. I think that's a good assessment. I would probably agree with you there. I mean, not the same cultural impact necessarily, no. And it's a different time. I think Elm Street, yes. I think the first Elm Street is just a classic of the genre. I think it's fresh. Halloween, sure. Friday the 13th, I agree with you. Friday the 13th, no. I think Friday the 13th would blend in a lot with the other films of its nature of that time, like Don't Go Into the Woods and I mean there were The Burning and it would just be another one of those types of films. Friday the 13th didn't become a cultural icon really till Jason and the Hockey Mask. It's Jason and the Hockey Mask that is sort of the face of Friday the 13th, and for better or worse, at the end of the day. So I tend to agree with your assessment there. Dylan says, was there ever going to be a sequel to Black Christmas? One of those rare times it works without one. Well, I was talking about this earlier in the show, that Bob Clark himself actually had an idea for a Black Christmas sequel, a direct follow-up starring Olivia Hussey. And this would have been like the late 90s, early 2000s, I think. But of course, Bob Clark passed. Now, that doesn't mean it would have come to fruition even if he had not died in a car accident. Sadly, he passed away in a car accident with his son in 2007, like I said. Even if he hadn't, I don't necessarily think that automatically means there would definitely have been a Black Christmas sequel. Who knows? But certainly, even Bob Clark, the director, of the original, just by that acknowledgement alone is acknowledging that, yes, although there is enough very solid circumstantial evidence to lead those to believe that Jess died at the end of the original, and that's why there's a phone call and all that, there is an argument to be made. Just the mere mention of, I have this idea is also evidence in and of itself that maybe she didn't. You know what I mean? And that was sort of the catalyst for us to glom on to It's Me, Billy. So, I think there's enough evidence out there for sure. It's a fun discussion. It definitely is a fun discussion to be had for sure. Let's see here. Apollo Balboa 1985 says, Dave, I contributed to the campaign. Amazing. Thank you so much, my man. And look forward to the Blu-ray. Will there be an audio commentary with you and Bruce discussing the film? Yes, that's one of the things we would like to put on the Blu-ray. We are planning on doing that. Not everybody. It'll just be myself and Bruce, because that's tough to coordinate. But definitely a director's commentary should be on the Blu-ray as well. Yeah, once the movie is out, Bruce and I are going to take maybe a week off, not doing fuck all. And then we turn our efforts to getting the all the perks fulfilled. And that, of course, includes getting the Blu-ray made. Now, that doesn't mean you're going to have your Blu-ray shipped to you when the movie's out. Like, the next week, it means that we turn our efforts then to getting that assembled, which is good news in and of itself. But of course, we can't ship, we couldn't work on the Blu-ray until the movie was done, for obvious reasons, right? We don't want to put a half-made film on the Blu-ray. But yeah, there's a lot of things: t-shirts, hats, posters, scripts, Blu-rays. That's what we turn our efforts to. And that will be what we are tackling over the summer. You know what I mean? And trying to get that done. And it's a process. We appreciate everybody's patience. I mean, I think Vince, if I'm not mistaken, is just now sending out Never Hike in the Snow Blu-rays, right? So it's a process, guys. It's a process. We appreciate your patience. It's not the snap of a finger. It's a lot of work. When you want to deliver something of this caliber and this quality, it's a lot of work. And we are a small team. So we appreciate everybody's patience, but I'm not going anywhere. We're here. We're keeping you updated as best we can, and we are going to deliver on that. So we appreciate your patience, but it's coming. It's coming, man. It's coming. But yeah, there will definitely, that's the goal. That's the goal. The Slide with Ethan and Ryan. I don't know who The Slide with Ethan and Ryan is, but I have never seen you here before, so welcome. Says, do you think that if Halloween had no sequels, it would be similar to what Black Christmas is now, or would it have less a pop culture impact? I think it would probably be more similar to Black Christmas. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Because if you think, Halloween was virtually, it's not that Halloween didn't have its impact, it did, but as I've said, Freddy and Jason ruled the 80s. I mean, Michael was non-existent between 1981 and 1988. I mean, think about that. Between 81 and 88, which is prime 80s, Michael didn't exist. I know there's Halloween 3 in 82 and he was on the TV, but I'm talking about a movie from him. And of course, Jason and Freddy were tearing it up. That's why they are the two most popular horror icons of the 1980s, and arguably way more popular than, and that's why when you wanted to dress up as Michael, people thought you were Jason. It's just the reality, right? So if there was no Halloween 2 and there was only Halloween from 1978, I think there's a high probability, that would have, absolutely. It would have been a classic because it became the highest grossing independent horror movie of all time. It definitely, it made its pop culture footprint at the box office, and, for sure. It would be known. It wouldn't be something like, hey, did you ever hear about that Halloween movie? Halloween? No, I don't. It wouldn't be something like that, but it would not have had the pop culture footprint that it currently has. For better or worse, bad or good, sequels do keep things in the pop culture, keep them relevant. Now, sometimes they can destroy them as well. Sequels can absolutely destroy movies, which is why you got to be careful. But out of sight, out of mind, right? And one of the reasons why Black Christmas doesn't have the pop culture footprint that, say, a Halloween does, is because it never spawned a series per se. It didn't become something, so it's tricky, but yeah, no, I tend to agree with that. Evil Alex says, did your family saw Black Christmas back then? What did they think of it? And what are they thinking of? It's me, Billy, and your channel. I don't know. I mean, my mom and dad obviously have passed away. They're dead. They passed away in 2011. So I can't ask them. I know my sister Jill definitely, I think they for sure would remember Black Christmas, and I don't believe they saw it in the theater. I mean, it was a very limited run. It was the kind of thing that would have appeared on television in the later 70s. And I know it appeared on TV in the States as, I think, Stranger in the House, I think it was called, or something to that degree. Not even Black Christmas, because it had a hard time keeping its title in the States at that time. We have to remember that's why Silent Night, Evil Night was the name it was released under first in the States in 1974. And that was because Warner Brothers, who picked up the distribution rights, were afraid that people would think it was a blaxploitation film. And that's why they changed it to Silent Night, Evil Night. Well, now in the States, it's known as Black Christmas as well, because we're out of that era now, but certainly that was an issue. And when it aired on television in 70 something, it aired as Stranger in the House, I think, something like that. Not even Black Christmas. So it's had a there's been a love-hate relationship with the film's official original title. Well, the original title was actually going to be Stop Me. That was actually the original title, was going to be Stop Me. But anyway, so great film. Yeah, I don't necessarily think that. I don't believe my family saw it in the theater. And what do they think of It's Me, Billy? They're very proud. They're very excited. My sister and my brothers are very excited for it. So it's they can't wait to see it. They can't wait to see it. All right, what do we got here? We got about 9 more minutes left in the show, folks. 9 more minutes left in the show. What do we? Did I miss any? Just want to make sure I haven't missed any super chats. I don't believe I have. I have not. Zach1123 says, would you ever like to see an official sequel to Black Christmas? If you were asked to write and direct it, what direction would you like to take? Well, I can't tell you what direction I would like to take, because that would tell you I would like to take what we've done with It's Me, Billy. I mean, that's what it is. I mean, It's Me, Billy, like, again, although it is obviously it's not an official sequel, in terms of its production value and its the way we approached it and the story and what we've set up and the direction we're heading in is the direction that I would go. And I can't tell you that, because then I would be telling you what happens in It's Me, Billy. So I can't tell you that. But I would say that, yeah, I mean, if look, you can dream, right? And if we were ever approached because of It's Me, Billy to either do a sequel or to the original film, I mean, to sort of, like It's Me, Billy becomes kind of like what James Wan's short film Saw was to Saw kind of thing, right? I don't know what Wan's shot. I have to watch that again. I haven't seen it, because the production value on It's Me, Billy might actually be much higher than that. And it may be. But if it was used as a catalyst for that thing, I mean, Bruce and I, our ears are ready, I also think Black Christmas could work well as almost like a series too, like a mini series, not one that goes on for like 6 seasons. But I think a sequel story could work well in that realm too. Again, not a series like you get like 5 seasons. I'm talking about like a mini series. We get like 4 episodes or something. I think there's potential for that as well. But we'd be listening. We would be listening. We would be very curious to see what sort of offers or ideas would be on the table. And then we take it from there. But we just, that's out of our control, right? You do the best you can. You let the chips fall where they may, and you see what happens, but whether people agree with the creative decisions that Bruce and I have done is out of our control, right? That it's out of our control. But we've worked very hard. We've worked our asses off to deliver something that is Black Christmas, that hopefully will make Black Christmas and horror fans proud of something that finally Black Christmas has a sequel. You know what I mean? Albeit unofficial. It is unofficial. But who knows? I mean, maybe people will love it so much that they'll consider it canon, even though it's not. Like how some people consider Never Hike in the Snow and In the Snow canon, right? That's kind of cool. That's kind of cool. That would be really cool. It would be really cool if when people at Christmas time watch Black Christmas, but then they're like, well, time to watch the sequel. It's Me, Billy. Like that would be so cool. That would be, sort of really humbling in and of itself. So, and you never know, maybe people will do that. I have no idea. But certainly, yeah, it was a lot of fun to make, and we're very excited. We're very excited, but it's it's art, right? So there will be people out there that will probably watch and go, oh my God, it's amazing. I love it. And then there might be people out there and then go, really? And I don't say that because I'm not confident in what we're putting out. I'm very confident in what we're putting out. I love what we're putting out. I say it because that's the reality of fandom. right? That's the reality of fandom, that some people are going to like what you create and some people are not going to like what you create. Do you know what I mean? Like, that's just the reality of fandom. So that's all I mean by that, right? There are going to be people that are going to love Halloween Kills. There are going to be people that are going to go, oh, really? You know what I mean? That's just the reality, you know? And hopefully, you always, as a filmmaker, you always hope that hopefully there's more yay than, oh, really? You know what I mean? That's just the reality. It's the reality of making art and films. But we are very excited. And I can certainly tell you for sure that it is, as I've said before, it definitely is the most Black Christmas movie you've had since the original. Say that. I think I feel confident in saying that. What do I got here? How much more time do I have? I have 4 more minutes to go. 4 more minutes to go. Dave Bouchety, is that how you say that? Margot Kidder was awesome. The ideas were interesting, but to me, overall, I found the movie dumb, wasteful, and silly. Well, that's okay. That's all right. And that is your opinion, and you are entitled to it, my man. You are entitled to it. And that is okay. I thought it was terrific. And I thought it was great. And that's all right, right? Let me see here. Oh, Destiny Faulkner says, you did say my last name right. Okay, good, Destiny. Great. I'm glad. Yeah, because I wasn't sure if it was like Faulkner, like meet the Fockers, or if it was like Faulkner. I think it's Faulkner because there's like Faul. That's okay, great. That's good. All right. You know what? I could probably just say, and Destiny says, because, I mean, really, how many Destinies are ever in this chat room? Michael Myers says, Dave, have you ever considered about working in the video game industry like Sony or Xbox as an actor? Well, the video game industry is part of voiceover. It's part of animation. So I have done video games before, not for Xbox or PlayStation. I've done a couple of like mobile app games in the past. So it's all part of animation. It's not a specific, there's not like a specific, I mean, in voiceover, when they are casting voice actors, like anything, but this is like anything from animation to promo to trailer. Once you get work in these areas and you establish relationships and connections, it is a high probability that they will just come back to you to do that work. I mean, I can't tell you how many jobs I've gotten by establishing relationships and connections, whether it's trailers or promos or commercials. People don't have me audition. They just book me. They know me. They know I do a good job. So they're like, they just go, hey, you know what? Let's get MCRAE to do that Pepsi ad. Let's get, MCRAE to do that toilet paper ad, or whatever the case is, right? And I still do audition, but that is the advantage of doing this for as long as I have and making the connections that you make, that sometimes they just book you. They don't audition you. They just call your agent and say, we want MCRAE. And they're like, okay, boom. And there you go. Video game actors is animation. Unless you're talking about, are you talking about like mocap? Like, you talking about motion capture, like an on-camera actor where they put, all the balls on you and they capture your performance and your body language and all that kind of stuff. Are you talking about that, or are you talking about voice acting? I assume you're talking about voice acting, the actual voices of the characters, which sometimes is the actor who's in mocap, and sometimes it's not. Did you know that sometimes when you're watching an ad, a commercial, and say it's a Dove cream Neutrogena ad or something, right? And you see a lady on the screen and she's putting, cream on her face, and you hear what is supposed to be her voice, right? It's her voice. And she's on there and she's doing this, and you hear something like, I love mine, Neutrogena Dove cream, blah, 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 whatever, right? But never in the commercial at all do you ever see her lips move. Now, sometimes you do. Sometimes at the end of a commercial, you'll see her turn to the camera and go, and that's why I love this face cream, or something like that, right? And then you realize, oh, it is the same person. But sometimes it's not. Sometimes the actor you see in a commercial is not the same as their voice that you hear over the ad. Sometimes that can be a completely different person. So just something to keep in mind. But no, in the world of video games, it would be just it would just be voice actors that are hired. So if an audition comes in to be part of a video game that is, by EA Sports or whatever the other companies are, and I get auditioned, and I auditioned for it, then that's how I would get the job. You don't apply directly necessarily. But relationships are built over time, and some of the big games like, Grand Theft Auto, Red Dawn, whatever, a lot of the big games will have similar voice actors across the games, just like you will hear the same voice on multiple commercials or promos or things like that. Because once you establish connections, then they just go back to you, because why would I take all the time auditioning when I can just go back to Bob, who does a great job? So it can be like that too. But yeah, I haven't done any console games, but I have done a few mobile app games in my time, and they're fun to do. They're fun to do. All right, for the Andrew Steven just sends in $10 for the channel. Thank you so much, Andrew. Really appreciate that, man. Really appreciate that. Michael Myers says, I was talking about mocap. Okay, yeah, no, that's not something that really interests me, but there definitely are actors that do it, and sometimes it is I know a guy in LA who is a voice actor who does that. He mocaps for video games, but also is a voice actor. So now I don't know if he voices the characters he's mocapping. I'm not sure, because again, those can be two different things. They can be the same person and they can be two different people. So I haven't thought about it. It's not really something that, it's not something that I particularly am gnawing at the bit to do. But if I ever had an opportunity to do it, it'd be kind of cool. Yeah, it'd be kind of cool to do. Be kind of cool. All right, folks, listen, that's going to do it for me for episode 170 of MCRAE Live. Thank you to my moderators, Frank Riker, Tabitha Short, Darren Sands, and Chris Baber for doing what you guys do and keeping the chat room flowing. You guys are amazing. Thank you to all the super chat questions that came in today, the non-super chat questions that came in today, of course. Thank you so much. You guys are awesome. It's me, Billy. Drops May the 28th, folks. Friday, May the 28th. Get your popcorn ready. And comment below and let me know your favorite creepy Black Christmas moments from the original Black Christmas in 1978. Let me know. I would love to know what your favorite creepy Black Christmas moments are. Hey, if you want to talk about some creepy moments from the '06 film, okay, if you want to, if you don't have anything. But I'm talking about the first movie, 1974. Let me know. All right, folks, that's going to do it for me. I will be back later this week. Have a great rest of your Tuesday. In the meantime and in between time, cheers.